Welcome. I'm kind of surprised it's taken me this long to do this as a video series, since I'm quite open and transparent on this channel about my income/financial situation. So, here it is. Finally, a video going over my net worth. This is the first video in this series. I will most likely make these once a month, but we'll see how we go. So, net worth, what does that mean? It's simply the value of all the assets you own, take away all the liabilities you owe, and that figure is your net worth. Easy peasy. But what comprises of your assets? What comprises of your liabilities? Well, each person will have their own unique circumstances, but I'll go over mine, since it could give you some clues on where to look for your net worth, or maybe you want to compare your situation to someone else's, in this case, mine, since you're watching/listening to this video. I wouldn't recommend comparing yourself to others since we all have our own journeys and we're all in our own separate chapters of our lives. But you could also just be watching this video for some ideas on what assets and liabilities could be a part of your life. So let's start with the good stuff. Assets, yay! This is the stuff you own. There's some nerd accounting definition for this shit. It's like, assets are resources controlled by an entity that resulted from a past event that is expected to provide future economic benefit or future economic inflow or some shit. I don't know. We had to know that definition in uni, and it was also used in some specific questions in CPA exams. But for individuals like myself personally, consider assets as stuff you own that has value and is under your name. First asset, cash, money in my bank. At the time of writing this script, my cash position is $155,481.71. Now, pretty much most of this is set on standby for a real estate investment. I don't want this in any stocks, since the stock market could have a downturn by the time I need this money. For example, let's say I have $100K in the market in January. If I need my real estate loan sorted in March, which involves putting up a down payment to the bank, if the stock market has a downturn in March and my $100,000 is now $95,000, I've essentially lost $5,000 and need to borrow that extra bit of money from the bank, which incurs some nasty interest. It doesn't matter if the market would have recovered and grown my $100,000 into $120,000 by June. I needed the money in March, hence why there's so much cash on standby. Plus, it's earning 5.5% in interest, so it's still growing anyway. Now, I bought my land in September of 2021. It was supposed to have titled and been ready to build on by around June of 2022. So, since September 2021, I was saving up way more than I was investing. Here we are in October of 2024, and the land still hasn't titled yet. So I missed out on a huge amount of growth in the markets. However, what happens if my land was ready on time? The market had a bad downturn in 2022, which was when my land was supposed to be ready. That would have really damaged my down payment if my land was ready on time. So I made the safer bet. It didn't pay off in this case, because I missed out on a lot of growth in the stock market. But it's way better than the other option of losing a lot in the 2022 downturn and then not having enough of a deposit for my land. So to wrap up this part, my cash position is more than $155,000 currently. Second asset, stocks. This is sitting at $9,877.79. Some of this relates to my share plan with my wagey job. You can have some of your pre-tax income go towards buying the shares in the company, which pay out an okay dividend twice a year. Some of it is in my individual stock picks on Webull, some is in my swing trading account on eToro, and as helpful as this extra money would be towards my house, I still want some money in stocks, but I need most of it to go towards a down payment. The less I have to borrow from the bank, the better. In a future video, I'll go over the calculations of how bad the interest is in relation to a home loan, but for now, we have a decent amount in stocks, but not too much. Third asset, crypto. I don't have much in this at all. I used to have heaps back in 2021, but I lost a good chunk due to the downturn, and then just selling out of the coins altogether. I sold because Binance was having some troubles at the time I sold out. There were rumors it would get shut down, or rumors it was insolvent, and where there's smoke, there's fire.
Glad I submitted you to that government watch list. I gotta go burn a bunch of documents. Ignore the smoke. There's no fire.
At the time, I was studying for, I believe, my 4th CPA exam, so I didn't really have time to figure out how to transfer my coins to another wallet. I'm sure it isn't that complicated, but every spare moment was critical. I didn't want any of my spare time going towards something that wasn't study-related. I made the right call since I passed that 4th CPA exam. But yeah, lost a lot on that. I have some Bitcoin, I think. No other coins. I used to have so many other coins. Like, I'd just go buy whatever coin I felt like. Cardano, Uniswap, Axie Infinity, Smooth Love Potion, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, you name it, I bought it. But for now, not much in crypto. Only $1,196 worth. 4th asset, my sports betting balance. Now it's currently at $0 because I used the last of my funds on some losing bets in the recent AFL finals. RIP. But I do have some pending bets on Trump to win the upcoming election, which is in November 2024 for reference, just to date this video, because I have a feeling this video will become somewhat important to my channel in several years' time. I have a small bet on JD Vance for a reason I won't elaborate on here, but for anyone who's following politics closely, it's obvious Trump is going to win. Even months ago when I made this bet, it's just becoming more obvious now. I was going to put $1,000 on this, as I've stated in some Instagram posts, and this isn't one of those, oh, well, if only I put more on this, I would have won more, or I swear I was going to bet on that. Like, I have made a $1,000 bet before. I made one earlier this year on the Super Bowl, except it wasn't actually on the game. It was on Travis Kelce not to propose to Taylor Swift. Like, there was just no way that was going to happen. The only reason I didn't have $1,000 on Trump to win is because it would require me to deposit some money back into Sportsbet, because I've pulled a lot out this year. And that is a horrible look from the bank's perspective when they go through your bank statements, because it shows signs of a gambling addiction. Banks do not like lending money to gambling addicts, which I am not, by the way. I had some signs of it back in 2016, but not anymore. So yeah, I would have $1,000 on Trump to win if I didn't have an upcoming loan process to go through, but when he wins, I'll have a bit of extra funds back into my sports betting account. But for now, my punting asset portfolio / balance is $0. A 0! Gamble harder than last time! 5th asset, superannuation / retirement account. So, self-explanatory, this is my retirement fund account. Here in Australia, if you're a rat racer / wagee, aka anyone who's employed via a normal job, a part of your income gets taken out and put into your retirement fund, and that'll grow depending on what investments your funds are, well, invested in. So currently this is sitting at a bit over $56,000. Now, some people, for some reason, don't include this as part of their net worth. Well, it should be. One dumb reason is because you can't liquidate it, aka you can't sell it and get that money in return. Well, based on that logic, the wealthiest people in the world like Musk, Bezos, Arnold, Gates, etc. aren't rich because they can't sell off all of their stock in their companies. It's a stock market related reason, but if they tried to sell all of their stock, it would tank the value of their stock, so they wouldn't get anywhere near the value of their net worth back in cash. So, quick tangent, no clue why people don't include this. It's an asset you own. You should include it. I'll talk more on the point of including assets in your own net worth later in this video when I mention other assets I have. Asset 6, real estate equity. Now this kind of gets a little messy here since there's no loan from the bank at the moment for proper real estate calculations. However, I have land in my name. There's just a process that needs to happen before it's officially mine. But that doesn't mean this equity still doesn't exist. You'll see this real estate thing develop as the months and the years go on, if you stick around on this channel, that is. If you don't, then you won't see it, obviously. But for now, I have $66,250 in equity. I've deposited $16,250 towards my land purchase, and my land has gone up in value by $50,000. Do the math. That's $66,250 in home equity, even though it's not a home. Yet, I bought the land for $325,000. It was recently valued at $375,000. Thus, it's gone up in value by $50,000. We'll talk more on equity in the future, no doubt, but for the sake of this video, asset 4, sorry, it's not asset 4, it's asset 6. So for the sake of this video, asset 6, my real estate equity, sits at $66,250 at the time of this video. If I did have the loan in place currently, I'd have an asset worth $375,000 in my name, but I'd have a $195,000 liability, my loan. But I'd also have $117,000 less in my bank account, as that's the current agreed down payment amount. Although I am looking at increasing this with the bank, but it involves some extra work. But let's just say I did have this agreement in place, the net worth calculation for this would basically still be the same. The purchase price for the land was $325,000. My loan is $195,000. So that's $130,000 left over to pay towards the land. I've already paid $16,250 to this, so $130K take 16.250K equals $113,750 left over to pay. I also have $117,000 agreed on paying the remaining amount for the land. Now, the discrepancy between the $113,750 and the $117,000 includes other bank fees and other bullshit I have to pay. There's always some fees and shit with establishing a loan. Classic banks. So owning a $375K asset, which is the total value of the land, but having a loan liability of $195,000 and decreasing the cash amount, decreasing my assets by $117,000, means there is a net equity gain of $63,000. Again, there's a few thousand in fees, so that would drain my cash amount a bit. So not all of my $117,000 down payment goes towards the land. Some of it goes to fees, so I misspoke before. The equity in the land doesn't go down due to the bank fees / a larger loan to cover said fees. It's just the total asset value goes down due to me forking out some cash that gets gobbled up by the bank. It doesn't get gobbled up by my real estate asset. So it'd be no different from me going and spending $3,000 on, I don't know, a quick holiday getaway in some other country. The bank fees essentially just drain my cash amount a little bit. But as it stands currently, there is $66,250 in equity related to real estate. Even when the loan process happens for the land, the net worth relating to real estate is basically the same. It just involves bigger numbers on both the asset and liability columns. I'll show what the comparison between the two looks like near the end of this video, because if I show it now, it just ruins the suspense of seeing what my net worth is. Not that anyone really cares too much, but it's simply just not how you make these net worth YouTube videos. You don't get halfway through talking about your assets, then show an image calculating all of your assets / liability values, and then show your net worth, and then go back to talking about the rest of your assets. So stay put, we'll get to the net worth eventually, or you could skip using the timestamps below if you want to ruin my average watch time. Asset 7, business / goodwill. So this is a common one for many business owners, especially the super wealthy. A lot of their net worth is tied up in business valuations. The business I'm referring to here is my brand, Gamification of Life. I just put an arbitrary figure here. It's not like I've added up the value of my thumbnails / other costs I've put into this business, because that's not how business valuations work. You don't value a business based on the costs that have been put into it. But I do need to have some sort of valuation on my business. I think it's a fair valuation when you consider the ad revenue gain from this channel, which isn't that much, but usually business valuations are based on financial metrics like future cash flows. But since this isn't really an important figure when considering my net worth, I didn't bother doing proper calculations here. However, I still wanted to add something for my net worth under the business column, or row in the case of this Excel doc, but if you don't really count this as part of my net worth, that's fine, but I do. And like I said, this doesn't make up that much of my net worth anyway, so my seventh asset, my business, valued at $500. Asset 8, items, miscellaneous items. Now, a lot of people don't count this as part of your net worth, which is fair, but I do. And again, like my business, this doesn't make up that much of my net worth anyway, so if you don't want to include this, then that's fine, but I am. So, these items refer to just random shit that I own in my name. For example, at my parents' house, we have a few gaming consoles, a PS4, a Nintendo Wii, a Nintendo Switch. I think we have a couple of broken PS3s. Point is, there's a bunch of shit in this house. However, the Nintendo Switch and PS4 are mine. I bought them with my own money, so they'd be included in my net worth. The PS4 doesn't really work, but I'm pretty sure I could still sell it for like $100. I'm sure someone knows how to fix it, or at least finds the parts useful for something else. One of the Nintendo Switches is mine. We have two Nintendo Switches, so one of them is mine. And alongside this, I also own a lot of other portable gaming consoles like Nintendo DS's. No doubt I could get some money for these if I really wanted to sell them off. And then I've also got some games for my Switch specifically. Or, well, like games that I bought, so they're technically also mine, which you could resell for like a lot less than what you bought it for, but you could still get some money out of it. I also own a couple of random watches. I'm sure I could get a couple of hundred out of these if I really wanted to, although the watch market has been tanking lately. I also own a lot of NBA jerseys. I'm unsure if I'd sell for a loss or a profit on these. I imagine a profit on most of them. NBA jerseys used to be like $100 here back in Australia in 2014, 2015 when I was really into the NBA. I was at Rebel Sport earlier this year to use some gift card I got from some Woolies reward thingo, and I saw some NBA jerseys were like $160 now. Damn, inflation be crazy. Now, I have some more timeless jerseys like Kobe, LeBron, Tim Duncan, Curry, but then I also have more obscure stuff like Dwight Howard, Rockets, and Atlanta, so maybe those wouldn't sell for a high value, but I'd imagine the other jerseys like LeBron's would sell for a higher amount than what I bought them for. I also have a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I don't own Pokemon cards, but I own Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I used to love buying this shit from eBay back in 2016, spending half my wagey paycheck on these eBay auctions, lol. So again, if I really wanted to get some money for these, I'm sure I could. Especially since all these cards are from the original series, or at least most of them are, so they have more nostalgia value. I don't know about the conditions of these cards, like is this an ultra rare or whatever the fuck is involved with card valuations. I'm not totally sure if they still make the older cards, like, Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dark Magician. I got mixed responses from Google in the 15 seconds I took to look if they were still making older Yu-Gi-Oh cards. If they still do, then the value isn't as high, but if they stopped making them, then I imagine the value of these is higher than what I bought them for. However, considering I bought all these from eBay, I don't imagine they still make them. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have found them online on some Yu-Gi-Oh website back in the day. Or maybe I got them from eBay since they were cheaper. Who cares? Point is, I consider stuff like this as part of my net worth. The same way your standard collector would include all their collectible items as part of their net worth. I lumped this figure in with the rest of my items. I lumped this Yu-Gi-Oh card figure in with the rest of these items, since it's not even worth trying to value these things individually. But even with my total value I put for my items, you'll find it's a realistic amount. Like, look at this shit I found on eBay. $40,000 for a Blue Eyes White Dragon? Like, what the fuck? What kind of Seto Kaiba wannabe ass nerd is paying for that? Surely not. So my rough valuations are much more realistic, which you'll see dissected a little further at the end of this section. I also have a few laptops, the one I currently use, another one I bought back in 2022, because I thought the price of laptops was going to surge because of the potential issue of neon not being able to be exported from Ukraine, which would cause problems with producing a lot of chips. Obviously, my thesis wasn't it's only going to increase laptop prices, but I had been using this current laptop for a while at that point. So in the past, my laptops have had like a 3 to 4 year lifespan, which was coming up soon for that laptop. So I bought another new laptop in case, and welp, I still haven't used it. It's still in the box, lol. And then I've also got 2 to 3 other broken out of commission laptops. I'm sure someone would spend, $50 for the parts of these new laptops. I also have a few phones too, so there's some extra bits and bobs. You'll note I didn't include clothes as part of this items thing. I'm sure I could get something from selling them on Facebook Marketplace, and my nicer business/office clothes could go for a bit more. However, I didn't include them in my rough calculations. I feel it's harder to value or sell off clothes than it is like a watch or collectible card. A quick Google search shows they don't usually include clothes in calculating your net worth, but then again, they also didn't include a car either, which I will be including shortly, since it's still an asset of value that I own. Even if I won't sell it. I mean, isn't that the same as my house or retirement fund amounts? Not like I'd sell my house, I'd just use the equity in it. And not like I can liquidate my retirement fund account, but they're still included in your net worth. You'll also see that it suggests including stuff like jewellery and collectibles, which is why I considered stuff like my watches, because at one point I liked collecting them, even if they were shittier watches, not like the Rolex stuff, and my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. The search results rationale for not including clothes is because the resale value is unknown, which is true. But for things like your laptops, phones, Nintendo Switch, you would at least have a better idea of this. If I put a Facebook post in my local community Facebook page that I'm selling my laptop for $150, someone would snag this for sure. If I sold some clothes for $20, even then you potentially wouldn't bother because people would already have their own clothes. Why would you go to the hassle of going to get some for $20? You could probably even get them cheaper at a store like Kmart. And if I said, okay, I'll sell 10% of all my clothes for $5, then yeah, sure, someone would snag them up. But in that case, why bother calculating the value of these clothes? Because it's almost nothing. So that long-winded yap was to say my items, part of my net worth calculation, include basically everything of value that I personally own, not including clothes. If I was in extremely dire circumstances, I'm sure me selling my gaming consoles, laptops, phones, NBA jerseys, watches, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I'm sure I'd end up with at least $3,500. As per my business calculation, if you don't want to include this as part of your net worth, or mine, that's fine, but I am calculating it for the sake of this video. It's still an asset that I own. All of this stuff fits the definition of an asset from accounting purposes, so I, as an accountant, will go off this same definition. Ninth and final asset, vehicle/car. As we discussed before, some people don't include this as part of their net worth, which does make sense. You don't really hold a car for the intention of making more money off it later. However, people include things like their house, business, or retirement fund amounts as part of their net worth. But in most cases, those people don't sell their house, they don't sell their whole business, and they can't even access any of their retirement money anyway, but yet that's still included in their net worth calculations. So again, if you don't want to include car in your net worth, that's fine. I am, for the sake of this journey though. And even then, it's not like this more subjective stuff as part of my net worth makes up the majority of my net worth anyway. So you can see a valuation of $7,800 for my vehicle. Unlike the items or business, I didn't pull this figure out of my ass. Well, in my defense for both of those other two, there was some educated reasons behind the figures, but in this case, I've taken the middle range based on what a car valuation website said my car was worth. Obviously, these may not be what it would actually sell for on the market, but the same works for real estate equity. Little secret, but the land in where I bought is having troubles selling at the moment. 2 of my friends bought in the same estate, and they're selling due to a combination of reasons, including the cost to build, as it's expensive as fuck here in Australia, but they're having issues reselling their land blocks. My land was valued at $375,000, but I doubt it'd sell for that in this current market, since, in my region, no one has any money. And since I'm in Victoria, rich investors from like Sydney or China aren't interested in property here due to the taxes the state government is slapping on real estate. And you also can't get rental income or depreciation from land. You can with a house. So you don't get an immediate return on cash flows / tax deductions on a piece of land, but you do with a house. Hence why no investors are snagging up the cheaper land lots in my region. And the locals aren't buying because no one has money, because this is not a super high income area. However, the bank valuation is the only thing that matters for equity purposes. My point is, for the sake of my car valuation, is, yeah, maybe the car wouldn't sell for this amount, not that I would even sell it anyway, I need to be able to drive to work and gym, and anywhere else I want to go, but it's still roughly what it's valued at. The same way my land is valued at $375,000, despite it probably not being able to be sold for that amount. In this current local economy anyway, it'll definitely go up as the years go on. And we have the same thing in the stock market. The value of certain stocks or the valuation of certain companies is not always totally accurate, and it's not always exactly what they'd sell for in the open market. So, ninth asset, my vehicle, valued at $7,800. That's all for the good stuff. That's all for the assets, folks. Totaling all these assets up, my assets position is around $300,000. Not bad at all, hey? Even if you remove the more subjective valuations like my business items and vehicle, that's still only a bit less than $12,000 removed. Still an asset amount of $288,000. But for the sake of this series, my current starting figure is $300,000 for assets. Yay! But you saw the video title. My net worth is $250,000. Well, why didn't I title it $300,000 as my net worth? Was $250,000 a catchier title? Maybe, but there's more to your net worth than just your assets. So let's talk about the yucky stuff. Icky! Oh my god, it gives me the ick. The liabilities. Ew. First liability, credit card. This is quite a common liability for many people. People will buy crap on credit, rack up huge interest charges as a result of not being able to pay back their credit card debts on time. So, let's see where my credit card liability is. Oh, it's blank. Yep, no credit cards here. I know in the States, apparently you guys can use credit cards to build up your credit score. Here in Australia, that doesn't really happen. Your max credit card limit eats into your loan serviceability amount, which is some sort of real estate thing. So having any sort of credit card is bad here in Australia for the purposes of borrowing for real estate. You can also get some points that can be used in some cases, or some people use credit cards to delay payments, which means they can use their own cash currently for better investments. But in my case, a credit card only hurts me. So no credit cards here, no credit card liability amount. Yay! Second liability, a car loan. Yet another common liability / loan for most people to have. Let's see what my car loan balance is. Oh, another empty one. Good. I paid for my car outright. I paid like a bit over $13,000 for it back in 2021. So no car loan here. Yay! Third liability, student loan. Well, I had no credit card loan and no car loan. So based on these historical trends, that means I have no student loan, right? Oh, there's a figure here, and a pretty nasty one at that. Ew. So yep, I have a student loan. Cries in Australia and laughs in Germany and Denmark. My student loan should have been at most $30,000 based on my degree, maybe around $35,000 because I had a few law units for CPA recognition after uni, and law units are more expensive than commerce units. But I failed several units during my time and had to redo some subjects. I also had some study abroad program back in 2017. The university allowed you to put $6,500 onto your student loan, and they deposit $6,500 into your bank account. I used this for flights and some other shit related to my study abroad tour. I also got a $1,000 grant that wasn't tacked onto my student loan, $500 of which I used for buying a Nintendo Switch. I'm pretty sure that came out in 2017, which is when I had my study abroad tour. I remember buying that Switch for the sake of my trip. One of the students brought his along, and he told people in the group chat before we went, he's like, hey, anyone got a Nintendo Switch? I'm keen to play some Mario Kart. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go get a Switch with that $1,000 that the uni gave us. And there was one night we played Mario Kart at midnight in the hostel. I don't know what the point of bringing that up was, but the main thing is $6,500 of this loan was basically some money related to a study abroad tour. Obviously, if I didn't go on that study abroad tour, this loan balance would be a bit smaller. And $2,500 of this amount is from a graduate certificate in artificial intelligence for business, and I did this during the lockdowns in 2020. So, if I wasn't a dumbass in my early years at uni, and I had to repeat some subjects, if I didn't do a study abroad tour, and if I didn't do a graduate certificate in AI for business, this loan amount would be way lower. So yeah, my own fault this balance is so high, although the study abroad loan was smart since 1, study abroad is great resume credit, aka a great career stat increase, as I've mentioned in prior videos, and 2, I didn't have $6,500 in cash in 2017, so I kinda didn't have a choice. The graduate certificate was also kinda a smart move. I guess it's a good AI threat hedge, even though AI will not replace accounting, not even close. I'll make a video in due time on why it won't, but even so, an extra certification, even if it's largely useless, was a good idea at the time, and it only cost $2,500. The interest on this student debt went up by more than that last year. Most of this excess damage is thanks to my own stupidity, which is failing units and having to pay for them to repeat them again. And here I am, paying for it years later. Thanks, younger me. Now, quick note, since I can already see this question coming from a mile away, why don't you pay this off? You have more than enough cash, why not pay off your student loan? I'll briefly explain, because if I go into all the finances and different money tactics, we'll be here all day. But the interest on this debt is not that bad. Here in Australia, the interest on student debt isn't anywhere near as bad as it is in the States. And if I paid off all this debt, that's less of a down payment I have for my house/real estate, meaning I need to borrow more of it from the bank for the home loan, and the interest on the home loan and the loan balance for a home is way larger than student debt. So it's literally a better financial move not to pay this off. So fourth liability/loan, ATO debt. So this is the tax liability I owe every year because I always owe money to the tax office due to the way I get taxed from both my jobs. Basically, I pay slightly more than I should due to my student debt at my office job, but I pay nowhere near as much as I should at my wagey job. So I'm basically borrowing money from the government each paycheck, and then I need to pay them back at the end of the financial year. I'm going to get my tax return done shortly after recording this video, as in when I'm recording this voiceover, I've got a tax appointment in the next week or so. So my next net worth video will have a figure in this fourth liability column. But I don't know what it'll be yet because I haven't actually done the tax appointment yet. It depends on how much tax deductions my tax accountant and I will cook up together. But whatever I owe, the tax office will go here as a liability, and I'll pay that back in several months. Next net worth update, you'll see a figure listed here. Fifth liability, real estate loan. Already talked about earlier, nothing here for now, but there will be soon enough. So adding my assets, take away my liabilities, which is almost 50 grand in student debt, that puts my net worth at around $250,000, $250,000. And I turned 28 not too long ago. I actually turned 28 at the time of recording this voiceover, but that's not going to matter because no one's going to see this video on my birthday because there's no way I can get this video out that quick. But yeah, not bad for a boy who had no career job this time 4 years ago. Crazy how times change and things compound. So, as mentioned earlier in the video, here is the example of how my net worth calculations would look if I had the first part of my real estate loan sorted. The slight dip in net worth is, again, for fees related to establishing a loan and other random shit that the bank scams you on. So you can see the cash amount has dropped by $117,000, but now I have the whole land in my asset value, And then there's also the first part of my real estate loan. The second part of the loan will be for the house, which you'll see in a few months' time. Okay, there we have it. My net worth breakdown. I turned 28 a few days ago at the time of finishing this video, because it'll only take me a few days to finish this video. And my net worth is around $250,000. Not bad. Still work to do, but this is a good spot to be in at 28 years old, especially considering my net worth 4 years ago when I was 24, when I was still working my wagey job only during COVID lockdowns, was probably somewhere around $0. My car at the time was almost worthless because my car I had back then was on its last legs. I still had a huge student debt balance, had barely any cash. My net worth might have actually been negative, to be honest, since I didn't have that much in my retirement fund account either. So that was a pretty good turnaround. Although, if I had my shit together from an earlier age, I'd be even further ahead. But that's okay. Nobody has a straight linear path up. My setbacks mostly came earlier in my life. Some people have a smoother path up to around 25 years old, and then they start having some spanners thrown in the works. All of my spanners were thrown between 20 to 24 years old. I burned up all my bad luck early, so things are looking good now. We're on the right track. There is the potential for shit to go wrong. However, given all my setbacks in my early 20s, I'm prepared for any possible issue, and I've hedged all my bets accordingly. I'll talk about my plan to prepare for an upcoming economic catastrophe in the future, and how I've set up so many contingency plans that it's almost impossible for me to fail. But for now, $250,000 net worth is where we are at. What's your net worth? What's included in your assets and liabilities? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. That is all.